I strongly urge people to read his book, The Franklin Coverup, and watch the movie Conspiracy of Silence, so you can better digest the information we're going to talk about today. It's just been barely a month, maybe 5 or 6 weeks, since you had major back surgery.
Oh, God, yes. I was a captain, infantry captain over in Vietnam, and I was assigned directly to Bill Colby he was officially deputy ambassador there, but he was technically head of the CIA over there. He created something called the Phoenix program, and I was assigned to help him develop and implement that. I was rappelling with a team, and you know what rappelling is?
Yeah.
You go down cliffs, real steep cliffs or mountains or whatever on
Do you
the
have
road.
any idea how far off the ground you were?
I think it was 40 to 50 feet.
Was it ground or was it rock?
I will tell you the truth, I didn't carefully examine it. It was hard and it hurt, and I had to be carried off. So this is the 5th operation I've had now in the last 5 years, and this was kind of like the ultimate and total one where and each individual disc or vertebrae, they put dead people's bones in, and screws and bolts, and anyway, so that's what they did, and I'm hoping it works, but right now, the way it feels, I don't think it is. The CIA had become like a government unto itself, following no rules, accountable to anybody. And he realized that was dangerous for this country. And that's why he went before the Congress of the United States, which resulted in the church committee hearings and all those things.
Right.
You're probably too young to remember.
Well, and Gary Hart was on that church committee.
And went before them and revealed what they called the family jewels, the family secrets, things they had done that crossed the line. Anyway, that was why he wanted me to write this book as a self-defense measure, but also to set the things in pace to maybe try to correct some of these things.
Well, but there's a lot of suspicious circumstances around his death.
Suspicious? Beyond suspicious. I'm sure. In my own mind, I have no doubt.
What do you know beyond
he was killed to shut him up?
The half-eaten meal left on his plate and the computers
first of all,
left on.
you got to know Bill Colby. He was a meticulous, perfect man. He wouldn't have a hair out of place. So here he is on his little vacation place out on Chesapeake Bay or whatever it is, and I'd been there with him before. We'd gone boating, and going boating with him was like not very exciting because everything had to be absolutely perfect. You know what I mean? So here, supposedly, he's by himself in his little cabin. He's eating his supper, got his TV on, and he gets up, leaves his house, supposedly, leaves his TV on, his food half-eaten, lights on, doors unlocked, wanders off and starts to go boating in the evening. No, not in 100 years. And anyway, I know from other sources, and someday I'll be writing about this too, he was done in to shut him up. Believe it or not, when I was a young boy, I lived in a monastery studying to be a Catholic priest. I don't think you knew that. Yeah, my lawsuit was the first of its kind in the United States of America, by the way, that for the first time exposed this problem of priests, Catholic priests, having problems with young boys and so on and so forth. There was a place called the Franklin Credit Union. It was run by this man named Larry King, a black man who, as I say, was very prominent in the Republican Party.
In Omaha.
In Omaha, Nebraska. And when all the credit unions and banks were having difficulties back there in the late 80s, early 90s or whenever, his went belly up. And after that, no big deal. A lot of others went belly up across the country. But then stories started floating out on the street that there had been all kinds of money missing. And then the federal credit union officials raided the credit union and found there was $40 million missing. And that's pretty serious. So
now, in your book, didn't you say that that sort of impropriety could not happen without complicit behavior from the highest levels of the banking institutions?
Which kind of behavior?
I'm not sure.
Either neglect. The credit unions were not very well regulated in Nebraska then. Remember, it was state regulation.
And you were on the state banking...
I was, when I was a senator, I was chairman, head of the bank.
Chairman, okay.
And so, when this word came out that $40 million was missing, then stories started floating all over publicly from young people, kids here. Well, I know Larry King. I used to fly on his private plane to Washington, D.C. and provide sex for this or that congressman or this or that public official, and other kids this and that, and so on and so forth. And I was asked by the media my opinion on this, and I said, this has to be the craziest thing I've ever heard of. I said, you can't have that going on. I mean, if that were really occurring, rest assured, it would have been exposed and known a long time ago. And then I got my bluff called a little bit. I got a letter from a kid who had been picked up on the night the credit union was raided. A kid named Paul Bonacci. And he was put in jail because he had touched, he was about 17, 18 years old, he had touched his cousin, supposedly, on his private parts on the outside of his pants when they were in bed together at his house. Now, how that warrants taking a 17-year-old kid and locking him up in jail immediately. But anyway, Paul Bonacci wrote me this letter, and he said, well, Mr. DeCamp, I know you don't believe any of this, but if you come see me, I could show you, I could prove to you that this is true. If he's calling my bluff, I better go see him. So I went to the jail where he was locked up in Omaha, Nebraska. And as I was going in, this other very prominent-looking man was coming out. He was a psychiatrist examining this boy Bonacci. And I thought, holy mackerel, this is the guy I want to ask him. I said, well, is he telling you these crazy stories? He said, yes, he is. And I said, I'm sure there's no truth to any of them, but truth, he says, not only is he telling the truth, he's not capable of lying. I said, what? How can that be? Anybody's capable? He said, well, he is what's called a multiple personality. And I said, what the... Anyway, he said he doesn't lie, he simply switches personalities, and that personality tells what they know. So anyway, I went in to see him, and he told me his story, and then he told me something else. He said, when I was a little boy, my grandpa taught me and made me write a diary. Every day, keep a diary of my life, every day. He said it would be important, you know, blah, blah, blah. He said, so I've done that. And he says, I have a diary of everything going back, you know, when I was just a little boy of my life. And he says, it's hidden, and he told me where it was hidden in some corner of a house or under some, and I thought, well, he says, you can go get it and you can read. So I went and got that and had that examined and learned that the thing had to have been written in those years. Because the ink, they can actually analyze, they can take something that was written, let's say, with ink in 20 years ago, and they pretty well can identify the age and if it was really done that in the paper and all that junk, you know what I mean? Believe me, I don't know how to do it, but I had it forensically analyzed by two separate outfits, and they concluded, yeah, this was written at this time and over these years. Because when I had originally heard all these stories, I said, if I really believed any of this stuff, I'd be the first to step forward and do something about it. And I realized that, as I say, I was up to my in alligators, because either I had to put my money in actions where my mouth was, or be in my own mind. Anyway, so I started working on this case, and it turned into the biggest monster I've ever encountered, and into a world I did not believe existed, could not believe existed, and even to this day, strange as this is going to sound, terrible as this is going to sound, I'll say it, I wish I knew nothing about it. I wish I were still kind of sweet and innocent, didn't know anything about any of this. It was only after I found and verified and validated my case there that I finally filed this lawsuit on behalf of this boy against Larry King and certain others, including the number one defendant was the Omaha Catholic Archdiocese and the Catholic Church, and a Catholic priest there.